Spider-Man is old. Very, very old, in fact. But when Spider-Man was made, there was no iPhones. There was no PlayStation 2. There wasn't even cars. No, I think there was cars. Today we're going to look at the entire history of Spider-Man, spanning from the beginning of the comics all the way to current day. And this is the comics. This is the stuff that you definitely don't know about.
Ever wanted to learn the entire history of Spider-Man from the comics, but you're either too poor, can't be arsed to read the wiki, or just hate Watch Mojo with your very soul? To see the journey from
all of the above.
Young, inexperienced Spider-Man to a battle-hardened superhero veteran, capable of leading the Avengers into battle. If I forget anything, if I leave out your favorite story of Spider-Kid from the 80s or something, feel free to—
There's no way that you forgot everything. This video is long. This is a chunky boy. Also, what is this spectacular Spider-Kid? We're gonna find so much goofy stuff on this. I cannot wait. I remember there was this one Spider-Man comic that I read when I was really, really young, which had Spider-Man like deform and grow new limbs, and his head turned into an actual spider head. It was absolutely insane. I can't remember exactly what the comic was, but it was mad.
You tell me in the comments. First off, no one likes their time being wasted. I could stretch this out and get like $1 billion in ad revenue, but we all know Spider-Man's origin story. There's no point going over it in tremendous detail. Peter Parker gets bit by a spider, his uncle gets bit by a bullet. With great power comes great responsibility. We've seen it a million times. However, a lot of people think that it was Uncle Ben who said that famous line, whereas in the original comic,
Oh my god, the old comic art is just so cool. Like, look at this, he just comes in from white. He comes in from Pissland, from another dimension. And the old comic style is so interesting as well. Like, it's so different to the way they do it now.
Shows up for like 2 panels, dies off screen, and Peter learns his lesson from a text box. Little does Peter know, he is seen crawling out his window by the girl next door.
Immediately, wow, this is before Spider-Man learned how to sneak level 100. This is before Spider-Man invested all of his skill points into sneak and physical capabilities, and also science. Spider-Man is really good at science. People underrate how smart Spider-Man is actually supposed to be in the lore, because he makes his own web shooters. Like, how do you make a web shooter? That's ridiculous. But talking about the web shooters, I do think it's more interesting when Spider-Man has organic webs instead of web shooters, because if you don't have organic web shooters, what makes you a spider? Is it your spidey sense? But like, every bug has quick reactions and quick senses. Everyone can do that. Is it walking on walls? Well, most bugs can walk on walls. So if you don't have the web shooters, what's really making you Spider-Man? Is it just the aesthetics?
Mary Jane Watson, making her the first ever person to discover Spider-Man's identity. This origin story was meant to be a one-off deal, but due to the popularity of the character, he was soon given his own main series. The Amazing Spider-Man followed the daily double life of Peter Parker.
Why does he have web armpits? Is that organic, or is that just part of the suit? Why would you... That just looks weird. It looks like he has really long armpit hair, which is very off-putting,
as he
to be honest.
His high school studies with his secret alter ego. He would be constantly picked on by the people at school, especially by Flash Thompson, who, despite being a relentless bully, would become Spider-Man's #1 fan. He would defend his hero no matter what anyone said about him.
I love that kind of dramatic irony, where the guy who bullies the kid in school turns around and becomes a massive fan of the hero. I think that's cool. And then eventually, when the mask comes off, he's like, Spidey, it's actually you!
Even making his own Spider-Man fan club, completely oblivious that the person he's worshipping is the same one he tries to beat up every day. After a long day of fighting hard.
How are you getting bullied if you're Spider-Man? Regardless of whether you want to reveal how amazingly strong you are, you're at least strong to like catch a punch and then like embarrass him a little bit, maybe slap him up, you know? You don't have to reveal that you can lift a car by yourself, but you can stop him from hitting you at the very least.
And criminals, Peter would come home to Aunt May, who thought he was just this poor little delicate boy who wouldn't harm a fly. And while Aunt May was just this frail old lady who could be taken out by a paper airplane, underneath she was a very strong-spirited fighter who had a lot of wisdom for her nephew. Peter's heroics as Spider-Man would be publicly shamed by J. Jonah Jameson, whose blind hatred for Spider-Man was really just a cover-up for his own self-doubt. As head of the Spider-Man fan club, Flash would speak out against Jameson's biased reporting, and even tries to fight him one time. Peter...
That's awesome. Jonah Jameson is like your average conservative commentator. He's like, it's those weird people that are doing the things wrong. You see those weird people that are different? It's their fault. It's their fault there's so much crime. It's those weird different people.
He would take pictures of himself as Spider-Man and sell them to Jameson, thus allowing Peter to pay for Aunt May's rent. It's also depressing as hell seeing how a single paycheck is enough for him to pay an entire year's worth of rent. While at Jameson's office, Peter meets...
To be fair, if you're taking pictures of a literal superhero, you're going to be getting a lot of money for that, alright? That's printing money.
Secretary, Betty Brandt. The two are very fond of each other and eventually start dating. However, a spanner is thrown into the works when her brother is brutally murdered and she blames Spider-Man for his death. Therefore, Peter can never reveal his identity out of fear that she'll despise him. To make things even worse, Liz Allen, who was previously one of the people who bullied Peter, does a complete 180 and now will stop at nothing until he's wrapped around her finger. Peter doesn't really give a shit, but Betty gets super jealous and their relationship soon falls apart. After they break up, Aunt May's like, "Oh, don't worry, Peter, I know a beautiful girl. Her name is Mary Jane Watson." But Peter's too busy with Spider-Man stuff, and so he declines the offer.
Look at the different colors in the backgrounds. It's so interesting to see how the old comics were made. You're short on time? Oh, well, just get rid of the background. Just don't draw a background. Just have a color instead. It's so cool. Also, I love how we're getting all the interpersonal drama of Spider-Man without dipping into any of the enemies or the villains yet. The whole point of Spider-Man is to fight crime, and we're just not touching on that within the first section of the video. It's
There's
cool.
something very charming about Peter's early career as Spider-Man. It's light, it's fun, and very nostalgic reading it back now. Seeing this young boy meet all of these iconic characters for the first time. These people who will go on to impact his life in so many ways.
OG
and he has
Green
no
Goblin.
idea of it yet. He's dreaming of
Undefeated.
being a scientist, not knowing that one day that will come true. We get to see Peter make new friends, fall in love for the first time, and watch as he messes it all up. We see the first appearances of all his classic villains, such as Dr. Octopus, Sandman,
There he is.
Electro, and Kraven the Hunter. Such tragic characters as Dr. Kirk
Who's
Connors, who accidentally turns himself into a lizard and tries to eat Spider-Man.
Okay, that is a funny version of the Lizard Man. The version of the Lizard Man that I know is one of the games, and he's a massive lizard creature. He's big, he's burly, he's got massive muscles. I didn't know that he could control alligators, though. That's pretty sick. I think the alligator, or the Lizard Man, is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, to be fair. Next to Dr. Octopus, which is, he's the goat,
Only to be cured and return to his loving family. Or the Scorpion, who Jameson helped create to try and capture Spider-Man, only to be driven insane and turn to a life of crime. There's also the mysterious Green Goblin, whose main goal is just to fuck with Spider-Man. Every time Spider-Man would defeat him, he'd go back to his secret lair and it'd be like, "Oh, who is he? Guess who it's gonna be?" And then they just don't tell you. It's also interesting to see how little a role Uncle Ben plays in these early issues. His death serves more of an inconvenience to Peter than anything, and after being briefly mentioned in issue 1, he's not even brought up again for the next 30-odd issues. Peter instead looks up to his fellow heroes, such as the Avengers or the Fantastic Four.
Oh man, the Fantastic Four. That is so sad what happened to them. They have not had a good piece of media in probably about 50
Sure,
years.
he might insult them and get into the odd fight now and again, but deep down he desperately wants to have their confidence, their respect. In his first fight with Dr. Octopus, Peter gets completely annihilated and feels really ashamed about his defeat. He's ready to just give everything up until the Human Torch delivers a powerful speech about resilience and beating the odds no matter what.
He says, "What? You got beaten up by an old man with what? With octopus arms? Oh, Matt Kit, no, you gotta. Ooh, you can't take that lying down. You gotta go back and
Peter's
get
now
him."
inspired to confront Dr. Octopus again and
kinda
emerges
ripped.
triumphant. Peter's heroic actions come from him just wanting to be better rather than from a burden of guilt.
Do you think Spider-Man and other superheroes need to work out? Is it a situation where it's like Frieza from Dragon Ball, where they are naturally very, very, very powerful, but if they do training, they can become even more powerful? Do they do training? Does Peter Parker actually go and work out off screen? We just don't see it. And if he doesn't, what if he did? What if he did lift weights? How much can Spider-Man squat? How much can he bench? Are these questions we will ever get the answer to? I am curious.
These big superhero teams represent where he's trying to get to, both as a hero and as a person. A bunch of Peter's villains come together to form the Sinister Six, but they're so far up their own asses that they fight him one-on-one instead of as a team, and he wipes the floor with them. Determined to get rid of Spider-Man for good, Jameson commissions a killer robot to hunt him down and capture him. He enlists...
Whoa. I thought he was just like a Tucker Carlson. What's happening? Why is he trying to kill him? I didn't think I thought he was a grifter. I thought this entire time J. Jonah Jameson was a grifter. He was pretending to dislike Spider-Man because it got him outrage clicks. Like if you go on Twitter nowadays, people will just make bad tweets because they want to farm engagement. At least that's what I hope. They're doing it on purpose because otherwise they're just that dumb. But it turns out J. Jonah Jameson, originally, at least, not a grifter. And a grifter is basically someone that says one thing just for outrage, but they don't actually believe it.
The roboticist Spencer Smythe to build it, calling it the Spider Slayer. Peter ultimately outsmarts them by making a puppet of himself and tricking them into capturing the puppet. Eventually, Peter graduates from high school, getting
Wait,
a
so
science...
they just don't try it again? He outsmarts it one time and he's like, damn, better throw out this robot that I spent millions of dollars on. There's nothing else we could possibly do with this robot now.
Scholarship at Empire State University. Unfortunately for Peter, Flash is getting a sports scholarship to the same place, so he'll not be getting rid of him anytime soon.
The Flash is getting a sports scholarship? Sports scholarship? That's cheating. That's not allowed. Come on, man. We talk about fairness in sports. Come on, you can't have the Flash.
Peter meets some new faces, such as his new classmates, Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy. Just as Peter's getting used to this new stage in his life, Aunt May falls hideously ill and is rushed to the hospital. This completely throws Peter off, and he's so busy focusing on Aunt May's health that all his new classmates think he's some sort of massive antisocial prick. It doesn't help that Flash Thompson is there to talk shit about him, reaffirming everything that Harry and Gwen already think of him.
Flash Thompson's the biggest hater in the world.
He's probably fucking dead. So Peter seeks help from Dr. Curtis Connors, aka the Lizard, who tells him of this special serum that can save Aunt May, and it's so unbelievably rare that there's like one in existence. Peter pawns off all his valuables to pay for it. However, Dr. Octopus conveniently needs the same serum for his own research, and hijacks the shipment before it arrives. Peter tracks down Doc Ock to his underwater base, and manages
kills him
to steal back the serum that Aunt May needs.
Okay, doesn't kill him, never mind. Also, if you're really that strapped for cash, here's what you do, Spider-Man. We're living in the modern age, 2023. There are a lot of ways to get money nowadays. You could, for example, start streaming. Can you imagine an IRL stream with Spider-Man? That'd be the most insane thing imaginable. He could just go live on twitch.tv/Spider-Man. He doesn't even have to reveal his face. He would farm so many subs.
But it doesn't matter, because during their fight, the base's structure is so significantly damaged that it collapses on top of them. It's here that we get one of the most iconic Spider-Man moments of all time, where Peter is trapped under the machinery, exhausted and alone, moments away from drowning. Knowing that Aunt May will die if she doesn't get the serum, and fueled by the memory of Uncle Ben, Peter defies all odds through sheer willpower alone, finding the strength to lift an impossible weight and free him from the base's ruins.
Oh, that's just like when a kid is trapped under a car and the parent sees and they have like superhuman strength and adrenaline to be able to lift the car to save their kid. Oh, that's so cool. Also, now we have an answer to how much can Spider-Man squat. It's whatever that weighs.
It's a moment that fully embodies one of Spider-Man's most powerful abilities, his will to always get back up. Peter rushes back to the hospital with the serum and saves
And she's
Aunt
already
May's
dead.
life. He's of course relieved, but now has to go back to his university where everyone hates him. Everyone, that is, except Gwen Stacy, who's determined that Peter isn't all bad and maybe just misunderstood. At this moment in time, Peter is not interested in Gwen because he's still hung up over Betty, who's now dating a guy called Ned. Yes, that Ned. And she might
Ned's
even be getting
Declassified
married
School
to
Survival
him.
Guide?
Oh, but Peter, don't you want to meet Mary Jane Watson? She's a beautiful young lass. Shut up, Aunt May, I'm going through my edgy...
Jesus Christ. I know I just saved you, but I'm about to give you a heart attack, Aunt May!
The same phase. At the same time, we get the first appearance of Norman Osborn, who, yeah, okay, at this point, everyone knows he's the Green Goblin. Norman hatches a plan to find out Spider-Man's identity, and so he just follows him home, and attacks him.
Why does he dress
out in
up
the
like
open
that?
for anyone to see. With the element of surprise, he's able
Actually, to be fair, the original Green Goblin costume is probably one of my favorites. It's so goofy, it's so silly, it's so camp, it's fantastic.
to defeat Peter and take him back to his evil lair. After a villainous speech about how he's going to put Peter in a cheese grater and make his life misery, Peter manages to get free and the two battle it out. If the Goblin escapes, he could go for Aunt May, he could go for Betty. Everything is at risk. And
Kill
so
him.
Peter doesn't hold back. He beats him to near death, covers him in a bunch of deadly chemicals, and accidentally sets him on fire. Still overpowered by doing the right thing, Peter gets Norman to safety. He discovers that the chemicals have messed with Norman's mind, and that he doesn't remember who Peter is, or that he's the Green Goblin. Very convenient, but Peter hands him over to the authorities, saying that Norman is innocent, and actually helped him take down the Green Goblin. Norman is admitted to hospital.
That's very
Peter
good of him.
comforts Harry over what happened to his father, an act that brings them closer together and sets them down a path of friendship. Peter begins to heal his reputation at university and finds himself attracted to Gwen. He's about to make a move.
Fair enough.
Peter, Mary Jane is here! And in another iconic Spider-Man moment, Peter meets Mary Jane for the first time. He's instantly taken aback. Her beauty, her charm, her carefree attitude. Peter's like, alright Gwen, respectfully, you can fuck off. And instantly starts dating Mary Jane. It's not really like an exclusive thing, so Peter is still going for Gwen. The college era-
What? Listen, when you're Spider-Man, you can do what you want, apparently. If he wants Gwen and Mary Jane, then we should let Spider-Man do it, to be honest.
Spider-Man is one of my favourites, and is equally as nostalgic as his high school days. It took what worked from the previous era and developed it further, resulting in some of the most iconic characters that we all know today. And while old villains were expanded upon, we were introduced to some new ones, such as the Rhino, the Shocker, and the Kingpin.
Okay, the Shocker has a really cool outfit. The Kingpin is just a guy. Like, he's just a gang leader. He's just a guy. The Rhino is so funny. How do you walk around
ones, such as
like
the Rhino,
like this? How do you just walk around like this and expect to be taken seriously?
Now there's Spider Slayer, which works out just as well as the last one. As time went on, Peter's friend group solidified a bit more, with Mary Jane joining the group and Flash slowly losing the bully persona. Peter finally moved out of Aunt May's house and started sharing a fancy new apartment with Harry. Peter also grew closer with Gwen, and the two became more romantically involved. But once again, Spider-Man got in the way when, during a fight with Dr. Octopus, Peter suffers complete amnesia and takes days to regain his memory. During this time, he doesn't know his real name or where he lives, and so his absence severely worries his friends and family.
Does he just walk around in a spider suit the entire time?
Peter goes to the police department for help, where he meets Gwen's dad, Captain George Stacy. You see, Captain Stacy has been studying Spider-Man during his retirement, and has come to the conclusion that he's an all-round pretty good guy. So when the other officers have doubts about Spider-Man, Captain Stacy comes to his defense and convinces the others to help him. Meanwhile, Harry's looking through Peter's room to find clues of his whereabouts, and discovers some of his Spider-Man equipment.
Oh, you can't do that.
Put two and two together and come to the realization that Spider-Man kidnapped Peter Parker. Not exactly Sherlock Holmes, are you, mate?
Hold on, wait a minute. You got all this spider gear inside of his room. He's constantly gone all the time, especially through nights. He appears and reappears. He seems incredibly physically strong for someone his age. Wait a minute. Oh my god! He got kidnapped by Spider-Man! Spider-Man must have jumped in the window, dropped all of his things in special hidden places around the room, and then stole Peter without any sign of tussling, fighting, or cadavering.
Word breaks out that Spider-Man has in fact kidnapped Peter Parker while he's in the police department. And they're like, Did you kidnap Peter Parker? No.
I don't know.
Just then, Gwen rushes in and demands to know where Peter is. Spider-Man's still suffering from amnesia, so he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and escapes before things can escalate. Eventually, Peter gets his memory back through water or something, and returns home to his friends and family. Of course, he needs to think of an excuse, and so the best he can come up with is that Spider-Man kidnapped me, but, he's actually a pretty good guy. Well...
He kidnapped me just to show me all the cool sights and sounds. We went on a 3-day bender. Whey, no surrender. We went all around the different bars. That's all. I was just having a mint time. Getting absolutely plastered with Spider-Man, who I'm not myself.
That checks out. Captain Stacy takes Peter to see Gwen, who's over the moon to see him. However, while she's helplessly in love with Peter, she now absolutely detests Spider-Man. Captain Stacy became a recurring character, who was very supportive of his daughter's relationship and was someone that Peter could confide in. This all changed during yet again another battle with Dr. Octopus. During their fight on top of a building,
kill him.
A crowd builds up on the ground below.
Okay, at this point, we know Dr. Octopus does crime. He does a lot of crime. He puts people in harm's way, and continuing to not do the murder on him is continuing to keep people in harm's way. At what point is it more harmful and more morally dubious to let someone live than to end their existence because you know that they will not change their ways and they will continue to do crime and continue to put people in harm's way? At what point do you just say, okay, it's actually worse for me as a person to not kill him?
Captain Stacy arrives at the scene, urging the civilians to get to safety, but it's no use. Things take a turn for the worse when Doc Ock knocks into an abnormally large chimney, sending a mountain of debris hurtling towards a small child. While everyone else runs away, Captain Stacy lunges towards the boy, sacrificing himself to save him. In his last moments, Stacy reveals that he had figured out Peter's identity and tells him to be there for Gwen when he's gone. Spider-Man is blamed for Captain Stacy's death, because of course he is, with Jameson using it as an opportunity to sway the public against them. And if Gwen hated Spider-Man before...
See? He just took out Doc Ock. Okay, don't kill him, but paralyze him. Okay, never mind.
Now it's like, on sight. If there was ever any hope of Peter telling her the truth, it's gone, further driving a massive rift between them. And so begins a series of extremely
he's got Mary Jane.
depressing issues where Gwen moves to England and Peter thinks he's lost her forever. Harry finds himself caught up in a drug ring and overdoses a bunch of times. The entire city is now strongly against Spider-Man, abusing him at every chance they get, and every issue ends up with Peter crying. But among the darkness, there is lightness. During her time...
See, at this point, you just make a new outfit, announce the death of Spider-Man, and then come back as a different hero who is totally not the same, Man-Spider. And then you have a different outfit and you just swing around, but you're Man-Spider, who is a totally different person, I promise.
In England, Gwen has time to reflect on her father's death, realising that her hatred of Spider-Man got in the way of her relationship with Peter, and that she does truly love him. She comes home to New York, and the two of them are now happier than ever. They go on a romantic vacation to the Savage Land, which goes as well as it sounds. Jameson creates yet another Spider Slayer. Peter even tries to remove his powers to spend more time with Gwen, but in
Where's his powers in this? Unless he has organic web shooters, his powers is like he's strong and he has spider senses. He doesn't have to do Spider-Man stuff. Like those things are just like helpful in day-to-day life. Being able to walk on a ceiling is, you're not going to use that, to be honest. Being able to be strong is you can carry in all the shopping in one go. You don't have to go back and forth. And then spider senses, enhanced senses, that just seems like a nice thing to have in a day-to-day life. If he truly wants to not be Spider-Man, he can just not be Spider-Man anymore.
doing so accidentally grows an extra 4 arms.
Oh my
Once
god.
again, he goes to Kirk Connors for help. Morbius gets in the way, fucks the whole thing up,
What?
and the lizard
Morbius?
goes out of control. But in the end, they're able to use Morbius's blood to control the lizard.
I thought he was
and get
DC.
rid of Peter's extra arms. It's here that Gwen is at her most supportive of Peter. They're both deeply in love, the gang's all together, everything's going perfectly. Until she fucking dies. It's no spoiler that the Green Goblin kills Gwen Stacy. I'd say that the knowledge of her death makes this story all the more impactful.
Damn, the Stacy family just cannot catch a break with Spider-Man, huh? They're just all, every single, I hope there's no more Stacys. I hope Spider-Man doesn't know there's any more Stacys. They'll probably go over to give their condolences, and Spider-Man will actually like open the door and it'll slam them in the face and give them like a brain aneurysm.
Just knowing that she's doomed no matter what, and there's nothing you can do about it. Norman Osborn suffers a mental breakdown brought on by his son's troubles with addiction. Suddenly, all of his memories start flooding back, and he instantly resumes his mission to make Peter's life hell. His first stop is at Peter's apartment, where he finds an unsuspecting Gwen Stacy.
He's such a hater.
Peter confronts the Goblin on the Brooklyn Bridge, where he throws Gwen to her death. Now, it's meant to be ambiguous whether or not it was the fall or Peter's webbing that killed her, but Roy Thomas, editor of Marvel Comics at the time, basically came out and said, it was the webbing. Shut up. Gwen's...
Yeah, I mean, she gets tossed off of the thing, she's tumbling to her death, all of a sudden, the web comes out, she gets caught by the web and then snaps her neck. The whiplash just goes, kills her, instantly.
Death really captures what death is for a lot of people. It's sudden, it's unfair. The actual event is over quickly, but its effects, the consequences it has on the people around it, stay around for years. The Green Goblin is impaled by his own glider, and Peter is left with no one to blame but himself.
He just leaves him collapsed on the floor, Jesus Christ.
In the wake of her friend's death, Mary Jane unravels her mischievous, carefree persona, becoming far more serious and emotionally transparent. She and Peter support each other through this time, and ultimately grow closer to one another. Meanwhile, Harry's figuring out that maybe Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Harry discovers his father's evil lair and tries to avenge him as the new Green Goblin, blowing up their apartment to try and kill Peter. Peter responds by punching him in the face and leaving him for the authorities. Harry is diagnosed as a complete lunatic and is sent to an asylum. Now, months after Gwen's death, Peter and MJ enter the dating stage and share their first kiss. Finally, something positive in Peter's life, with him and MJ's relationship pulling him out of his depression. He
Let's
can't
go,
stop
Peter.
thinking of her, and this is exactly what he needs to... Gwen is back. After
What?
Peter convinces himself
What?
that he's not gone insane, he's now got to deal with the fact that his dead girlfriend is back, and has no idea about his new, very much alive girlfriend, which is just as awkward as it is heartbreaking.
How did that
After
happen?
some quick investigating, they find that Gwen's body is still in her grave. So this new Gwen, while being genetically identical, is something else entirely.
An alternate dimension, enter the Spider-Verse.
This storyline marks a beginning of a certain trend in Spider-Man comics, starting the series down a path that would result in a very confusing, controversial mess. Clones. You see, this new Gwen
Clones?
Stacy is actually a genetic experiment created by one of Spider-Man's most infamous enemies, the Jackal. Spider-Man's villains have always had these tragic backstories. Dr. Octopus was a scientist whose experiment messed with his head. The Lizard was just a family man trying to grow his arm back. And the Jackal is a nonce. A professor at Empire State University, the Jackal fell in love with one of his students and became very jealous of her boyfriend at the time. After her death, he was so heartbroken.
Oh no! You mean a clone and you're a nonce? You're cloning minors? And they... No!
And used his scientific skills to clone her back from the dead. He then dressed up in a Grinch costume and psychologically tortured Spider-Man with the clone of his dead girlfriend. And if that wasn't enough, and this next bit's actually a pretty genius plan, he creates a clone of Spider-Man with all of his memories and personality so that, from the clone's perspective, he is Spider-Man. He then kidnaps the real Spider-Man and switches them about so they have no idea who the clone is. Jackal blows himself up. He's a bitch, who cares? But what matters is that one of the...
No, I can't get over the fact that he was just making perfect clones of minors that he fell in love with.
Spider-Man dies with him. So, while it's back to normal...
They're college students? I don't believe that he didn't have a crush on minors. I don't believe it.
One Peter Parker. He's not actually sure if he's the real Peter, which sends him into an existential crisis. Realizing that she's not actually Gwen Stacy, the clone of Gwen leaves New York to become her own person. I'm sure these clones will never be a problem in the future. Meanwhile, Jameson goes to create yet another Spider Slayer. However, this time, Spencer Smythe is like, "Fuck your Spider Slayers," and tries to kill Jameson, only to end up dying himself. Aunt May almost marries Dr. Octopus. I can't remember why, and I don't care.
Nah, it's gotta be an April Fool's issue or something like that, surely.
Also, Kurt Connors has beef with this guy called Stegron, who's basically the lizard, but he turned himself into a dinosaur. Kurt's
That's way
son
cooler.
Billy is kidnapped, and the lizard goes toe-to-toe with Stegron, who's now got an army of dinosaurs, and Spider-Man's caught in the middle of it.
Oh, that's
Stegron
so sick!
falls into a river and dies, and Kurt is reunited with his family. From this point on, Kurt became Spider-Man's solution to everything. Hey, someone put a bomb on us. Help. The Moonstones. Something to do with the moon? While the whole clone situation puts some strain on Peter and MJ's relationship, they eventually heal things and Peter ends up proposing to her, to which she says no. She friend-zones him and moves to Florida. This just so happens to take place in the same issue as the Big Wheel. Sure, the majority of Peter's college friends are either dead, clinically insane, or in a different state, but at least it's time for him to graduate. Except he's actually denied graduation because he missed one gym class by accident.
No shot. That's a hilarious way to get denied. I wish I was denied for that. But I hate every gym session because, you know, I'm just built like that, you know what I mean?
Peter starts dating the Black Cat, which is great because now he doesn't have to hide his identity or worry about her getting hurt. Harry gets amnesia.
Doesn't have to worry about her getting hurt. That opens the possibility for a lot of different things. Like, for example, fighting crime and other things.
And is cured of his insanity, so it's like the whole thing never happened. Spider-Man's sent to fucking
He's cured of his insanity? He just goes to a mental asylum for a bit and he wakes up one day like, oh, well, hang about. I'm not bloody insane anymore. I'm completely sane and normal. Everyone, I'm sane again!
And fights one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse. Bit of a step up, but during his cosmic adventure, he gains a cool new black costume, which can transform into whatever he wants with a single thought, making outfit changes so much easier. Upon realizing that Black Cat only cares about the spider and not the man, their relationship falls through, just in time for Mary Jane returning home from Florida. There was probably another Spider Slayer in there, built by Smythe's son. Once you read like 800 issues in a week, they all start to blend together. It's here we reach a crucial point in Peter and MJ's relationship, in which MJ has had enough of hiding the truth and reveals that she's known Peter's secret all along. The constant knowledge of Peter risking his life has gotten too much for her, which is why she turned Peter down and left New York.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I was wondering why she'd turn him down since they seemingly had a pretty decent relationship. Now it makes sense. She was scared because he's constantly putting himself in harm's way. She doesn't know if it's a good idea to be married to someone like that. If it's a good idea to be married to someone that not only puts himself in harm's way, but you could be used as an object to use against the superhero. Makes sense.
Realizing that things are only going to get better if they're honest with each other, the two promise to be there for each other and figure out how their relationship is going to work. Peter gets a little bit freaked out when his new costume starts swinging him around New York while he's asleep, and so he goes to the Fantastic Four to get it checked out. Upon learning that it's actually alive, Peter has them remove it and put it in a tube. It's not that easy though, as the suit soon escapes and forces itself back onto Peter. Struggling to get it off, Peter
non-consent is not okay.
Discovers its main weakness, as the sound of a church bell traumatizes the symbiote, seemingly killing it for good. Despite
What?
this, Peter would still wear a cloth version.
Wait, originally the symbiote was some kind of demon? If the sound of a church bell scares it, then it must be some kind of demon. It's not exactly like an alien. Unless, okay, so by that logic, in this realm of reality, God is real, but it can't be an alien if it's scared of church bells. Because why would an alien be scared of church bells? It has to be a demon, right? It's weak to sound waves? Oh, so it's not even the bells. It's just the fact that it's a bell, not because of it's a church. Oh, it's just the sound. Okay, never mind. Take it back. It's scared of sounds? What a weak-ass bitch the symbiote is.
Black suit, because Black Cat thought it was hot. Did someone say Spider Slayer? With Smythe dead, Jameson hires Dr. Marla Madison to build another one, but the two actually fall in love and eventually get married. As a wedding gift, Spider-Man makes out with him. What the fuck,
What?
Spider-Man? Blaming Jameson for what happened.
Okay, I totally understand why Jameson doesn't like Spider-Man now. I get it.
The Scorpion kidnaps Marla in an attempt at revenge, but his plan is short-lived and he's stopped by Spider-Man. Spider-Man also fights alongside the mercenary Silver Sable, taking down such evil villains as the Black Fox, the Jack-O-Lantern, and the US government. As Peter
What?
and MJ grow closer and closer.
Finally, a villain truly worth Spider-Man's time. You have these people running around in suits, they're nothing. They're not worth your time, Spider-Man. Let's focus on the real problem. The US government.
Peter realizes that this is the person who he wants to spend the rest of his life with. And after a massive kick in the balls of a cliffhanger, we get to the next issue, where MJ says, yes!
What?
Okay, she initially turned
No.
him down, yet again.
What?
But we soon learn that she's just afraid of marriage because of how her parents turned out.
Third time's the charm, Spidey. Don't worry. Listen, you've got the looks, you've got the powers, you got the charisma, you got the stature. Third time's the charm. You got it.
Her family ran out on her and tried to escape their responsibilities, so it's almost in her nature to run away from big decisions like this. But after learning that it's not a bad thing to commit to someone you love, MJ accepts Peter's proposal. And so it's time for Spider-Man to get married. Wedding guests include Aunt May,
Congrats, guys.
Flash, Harry, Jameson, Marla, Robin.
Wait, why is Jameson at Peter Parker's wedding? To be fair, if I had a shit boss that was like, get me pictures of Spider-Man, and it was just an all-around arsehole, while they may be my boss, I'm not going to invite them to my wedding.
Robertson of the Daily Bugle, MJ's Aunt Anna, and Betty. No, Ned. Ned died. Peter and MJ move into an apartment together as newlywed husband and wife. This is something I love about the Spider-Man comics from, well, before 2007. For
They have
the
kids?
most part, they let Peter grow, not just physically from a teenager to an adult, but as a person as well.
Spider
Sure, he
kids?
still has his flaws, as any character should, but you can see him become more mature. You can see how he's learned and improved from his years of being a superhero. Spider-Man's always been about relatability, and sure, him having his life out of order or being really unlucky is part of it.
Spider-Man being about relatability is a very interesting way to take away from the web-swinging, superheroed, costumed villain defeater.
It's his growth that's the most relatable aspect for me.
I get it though. It's because he is very down to earth. He's not like saving the world. He's saving your street corner. He's all about Brooklyn and New York and all that. He's on the ground. He's interacting. He has real relationships. I totally understand where they're coming
All
from.
of us, Peter gets anxious and uncertain about each new chapter of his life, but he still accepts the change and embraces it. Whether it's going to college, having to find a whole new group of friends, graduation, choosing the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, married life, parenthood, accepting and moving on from the death of a loved one. If there's one thing I hope this video illustrates, it's that change is key to Spider-Man. Shortly after their honeymoon, Peter and MJ are tormented by Kraven the Hunter, who,
Mate, who is this? This is the only villain that I'm just like, I have no idea who this
after
is.
a lifetime of being defeated and humiliated by Spider-Man, hatches a plan to kill him and redeem his honor
What, by suplexing panthers? What?
as a hunter. In the past, Kraven would use spears, darts, all sorts of traditional hunting equipment. But what have they done for him lately? So
Does he
Kraven
not have a
abandons
job?
his usual set of tools in favour of a gun, which
Oh, he's in the new Spider-Man game. That's right. There's like the bounty hunter. Oh my god, he found a gun. Bro, he lives in America. How is he struggling to find guns up until now?
he uses to just straight up fucking murder Spider-Man. Kraven
What?
buries Spider-Man's body himself,
Oh my
puts on a
God.
Spider-Man costume, and stands over his grave in
That's
what is
weird.
possibly one of the most coldest villain moments of all time. But he doesn't just stop there. He then goes around doing Spider-Man's job for him, going so
What?
far as to kill people, thus ruining Spider-Man's reputation. The
Oh
only
my
person
God.
he doesn't fool is Mary Jane, who instantly sees through Kraven's disguise. After a series of visual metaphors which definitely scarred any kids reading it at the time, Peter uses his indomitable will and love for MJ to dig the way out of his own grave.
That's insane. I think that is a bear strength feat than squatting the iron whatever he was squatting last time. That's insane. Like what's that, 6 foot of dirt? That must weigh so much. Thank you, Arnav.
He goes to confront Kraven, but Kraven refuses to fight back. Sure, Spider-Man may still be alive, but it doesn't matter. He proved himself superior and made his point, that he was worthy of the title Kraven the Hunter, and his honor was restored.
Well, I mean, not really. You're not much of a hunter if you can't kill your prey. Would you call yourself a hunter if you incapacitate it temporarily and then it's fine?
He leaves a confession for the police, clearing Spider-Man's name, and with that, Kraven shoots himself in the head.
Oh my god.
This story and the death of Jean DeWolf arc marked a darker time for Spider-Man. With brutal deaths and disturbing imagery, Spider-Man comics were at their most mature. But they weren't just dark and edgy for the sake of it. They were grounded in character and the themes of morality, revenge, flaws in the system, all of which produced some of the most memorable Spider-Man stories to date. Shortly after, we reach Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, featuring the...
This is all the same story. I know there's like different versions of Peter Parker, there's different versions of what he's doing and all that. Obviously, because there's the Tom Holland, there's the Sam, whatever his name is, there's the Andrew Garfield one, there's all these different versions of Spider-Man. This is all the same Spider-Man, which it seems like this is the most in-depth, fleshed out version.
The first appearance of Venom. Already traumatized by her run-in with Kraven, MJ comes home to find this. No matter the amount of life-threatening situations she's been in, MJ has always remained strong in the face of danger. So Peter is determined to find out what could have possibly made her feel so helpless. Upon confronting this strange new creature, we get a look at his tragic backstory. Eddie Brock was just a simple reporter for the Daily Globe, one of the Daily Bugle's competitors. After Spider-Man exposed his fraudulent journalism, Eddie's career was made into a laughingstock, and with his life completely ruined...
Bro, you think that would even happen now? What, he exposes fraudulent journalism? Spider-Man doing that would make Eddie Brock way more popular. If you come out and say, look, this guy's been lying, and here's the proof. Idiots would just be like, oh, that's my guy, let's go. No, Spider-Man, you suck, actually. I love this guy, he's awesome. That would just make him more popular. It wouldn't ruin his life. It wouldn't get him fired. It would get him promoted. They'd be like, wow, you're really good. Do you want to be a pundit on Fox News?
And he had no other option but just to off himself. Raised as a Catholic, however, Eddie believed suicide to be a mortal sin, and so before he took his own life, he went to a church to pray for forgiveness, the same church in which Spider-Man was fighting the symbiote. It latched onto Eddie, feeding off his humiliation and desire for revenge, transforming him into Venom. And in another contender for the coldest villain moments of all time, Venom webs Spider-Man to that same church bell, so that when midnight strikes and the bell starts to ring, Spider-Man will be squished into tiny pieces, thus exorcising him.
Jesus Christ, that's insane. Also, I didn't realize that Venom had web shooters. I thought that he didn't have web shooters specifically because he wasn't a spider creature, because he was an alien symbiote instead.
Spider-Man breaks free through the power of bullshit and defeats Venom by throwing him into the ground.
He
takes Eddie to the Fantastic Four, who put him in a tube and ship him off to some gulag. With MJ still traumatized by Venom, Peter ditches his black costume in favour of his classic red and blue. Meanwhile, Aunt May worries that she's been getting in the way of her nephew's marriage and distances herself from everyone. MJ reassures her that they do still need her and still want her as part of their lives, bringing them closer than ever.
Oh, that's such a sad situation where an old person thinks that the people that they love so much don't need them. They've outgrown the need for them and they don't need them anymore. Oh, that's so sad. No, listen, if you have an elderly person in your life that you love, reassure to them that you love them and you think that they're awesome and you want to hang out with them, because you can get to a point. I can totally imagine it where you're just like, oh, everyone's good now. They don't need me anymore. That'd just be a really sad way to go about your life.
He also finds a new partner by the name of Nathan. He's a bit of a knob, but the two have some decent chemistry and he's vital for May to move on from her dead husband, and he's dead. Also, Black Cat finds out that Peter's
to be fair, he was very old
and starts dating Flash just to mess with him. Alright, it's the fucking 90s. A lot of people really don't like this era because of all the clones and, you know, Marvel and DC were just trying to outdo each other in terms of who could make the most weirdest, most edgiest shit imaginable.
Dude, I love these designs. That is so silly. What are you going to do with all of that armaments? You're walking around with a literal armory on your back. The US government is calling you up so that they can buy things from you. What are you doing?
A rejected clone of Spider-Man who uses his spider powers to stick his hand to people's faces and rip them off. You also have Cletus Cassidy, a serial killer who shares a cell with Eddie Brock. When the Venom symbiote has a baby, it latches onto Cletus and he becomes the superpowered mass murderer known as Carnage.
Okay, Carnage is really cool though. That's pretty sick.
After Harry had got his amnesia, things were working out for him. He married Liz from Peter's high school. The two had a son called Normie. You know, he's having a gay old time. That is until the X-Men do some bullshit that messes with everyone's heads, and now all of Harry's goblin memories are restored. And of course you'd expect—
Of course it would be the bloody X-Men. They do one thing that isn't a mid-movie in 20 years, and they bring back the Green Goblin. The individual that got Gwen Stacy killed in the first place. Spider-Man's got to teach them a lesson. He's got to put them in their place.
To go goblin mode on everyone, and Spider-Man would have to stop him. But no. It's actually a pleasant surprise when Harry doesn't instantly turn evil, and instead goes round trying to be a superhero. Unfortunately, it doesn't last long, as Harry is repeatedly haunted by visions of his dead father, and eventually the Green Goblin persona takes over. Once again determined to avenge his father, the Goblin confronts Peter and tries to blow him up. During the fight, Harry's real personality starts to fight the Goblin, and he keeps switching between the two personas. Peter tries to get Harry to fight it, but it's no use. After a fierce battle, Peter surrenders himself to the Goblin, saying that the only way this ends is if one of them dies. Even though he has every advantage, the Goblin can't bring himself to kill Peter, proving that Harry's still in there and still fighting to do the right thing.
Well, that's pretty sick. Also, Spider-Man, listen, you're technically the more morally good person than the Green Goblin. I think that maybe you should, if only one of you can live, I know he's your mate and all, but if we're thinking about this in a strictly what works sense, maybe we off him.
The Goblin flees the scene and spends the next 12 issues swimming in goblin juice, making himself stronger, crazier, and diluting what's left of Harry's personality.
What is goblin juice?
Special juice does enhance him, it's also killing him from the inside. He then starts stalking Peter, following him in the street or at the Daily Bugle, threatening to give up his identity. He even goes so far as to bring Mary Jane to the same place that Gwen died, just as another way of fucking with him. Peter—
That's so messed up, man. You can't do that. Listen, you can be a villain, you can be a supervillain, you can do crimes and all that, but come on, man. That's specifically targeted. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you?
Bait and confronts him. Still hopeful that his old friend can be redeemed, the Goblin lures Peter to a building rigged with explosives and drugs Peter so that he can barely move. It's clear to him that their rivalry will go on forever, so the Goblin plans for both of them to die in the explosion. That way he'll have avenged his father's death while also ending his own mental suffering. Peter is fucked and can do nothing but lie there and wait to be blown up. However, the day is saved by MJ, who has brought Harry's son with her in an attempt to break through to him.
Wait, you took the son into the bomb building? I don't know. I mean, that's probably gonna get the son killed, isn't it? That's probably not a good idea.
Upon realizing that his son is about to be turned to ash, Harry's personality snaps back. He instantly gets MJ and Normie to safety, realizes he forgot about Peter, and saves him as well.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's wow, he could have just left him in there, you know.
But the Goblin formula has taken too much of a toll on his body, and Harry collapses. Harry thanks Peter for believing in him, and lets him know that no matter what happened between them, he still considers him his best friend. He holds Peter's hand and smiles, before succumbing to his injuries and dying. As Peter grieves his friend's death, the issue ends with a picture of Peter and Harry in their college days.
That's very sad.
A happier time before any of this happened. Alright, it's time for the Clone Saga. Now this event was stretched over several years and has a fuck ton of characters, so it was a—
Whoa, this art is way different!
Nightmare to navigate. For this video I did want to actually read everything myself, and not just rely on the wiki, but my god, it helped. If the story just took place in one comic and was really long, then sure, that's fine. But it took place back and forth between the 4 concurrent Spider-Man series at the time.
There were 4 Spider-Man series? Are all of these different Spider-Man, or are they the same Spider-Man? Is this a different, if this is a different Spider-Man universe? Because the one on the left kind of looks like a little bit like the old style, whereas the ones to the right seem like more of a new style, which could be a different Spider-Man. So they're different Spidey universes.
Plus the 30-something other series that the story was planted in between. And you know what? I didn't actually have to read—
This is why I can't read comics. This is so complicated. If you want to read the entire history of one character, how do you know when things start and end? What is all this? What do you say, like, the superior special Spider-Man, and then you want to read the super superior Spider-Man, but oh no, they're 2 different Spider-Man with 2 different laws and 2 different forms of characters, but they actually use the same characters because they're Spider-Man, so they have to use the same characters and the same villains, but they're actually completely different stories. But how would you even know that they're different stories?
Like, half of
So
these.
complicated.
Most of them have fuck all to do with the main story, but that's what Wikipedia told me.
Yeah, you
Maybe
need
the
a
teachers were
degree for
right
this
about
shit.
Wikipedia all along. The actual main story is pretty simple if you remove
What is this?
half the stuff they threw in there. Remember that clone of Spider-Man that the Jackal used to fuck with him? Turns out he didn't die, and has actually been living in secret under the name of Ben Reilly. After doing a fancy DNA test, it's revealed that our Peter, the one we've been following for the past 30 odd years, is in fact the clone, and that Ben is actually the original Peter Parker from those very first issues.
What? I don't know if I like that. I don't know. I don't know about that one. If I was around, if I was a big Spider-Man fan when that came out, I'd probably have a bad taste in my mouth, to be honest.
Also, MJ is pregnant. Another
Oh,
existential
cool.
crisis ensues, but
Wait! So MJ got pregnant by the clone. Oh no! But the original Spider-Man would know that he's the original Spider-Man because he is conscious in his own body and he knows the original Spider-Man. Of course, the clone would still think that the original Spider-Man, but the original, after being beaten, wouldn't just like skulk away and change his name. He'd do everything in his power to get back in the position that he was before. Especially not let that clone Spider-Man go home and fuck his wife.
you know what? This is actually kind of good news. Now that there's another Spider-Man, Peter can now focus more on his family and dedicate most of his time to be a dad. And so Peter retires from being a superhero and lets Ben take his place as the new Spider-Man.
But he is the old Spider-Man because Ben is the original Peter.
Some stuff happens, Venom, clonage, maximum clonage. Oh shit, they got Speedball in this? And then at the end, it's revealed that Norman Osborn is alive and he's been pulling the strings this whole time. Turns out
What?
Norman faked the DNA test because why not? Fuck you. And Peter is actually the original. This is
What? So it wasn't. So Ben was actually the clone the whole time? Oh my god. Mate, being a Spider-Man fan at this time must have been insane.
proven when, during a final confrontation with Osborn, Ben sacrifices himself to save Peter and his body turns to ash. The clone saga then ends on a very tragic note.
Oh, they probably heard the backlash from everyone and they were like, oh shit, dude, we gotta go back. We gotta redo all of this. We can't let this slide. Everyone hates this.
Peter and MJ's child is stillborn, which is probably one of the most traumatic experiences any couple can have. Why add this to the list of tragedies they've faced? Well, the story is that Marvel thought that Peter having a child would age him up too much, and the change would be too much for the readers without realising that's the whole fucking point. And this comes right after Ant-Man.
They said, hold on there. We can't have any character progression on this series. We have to make sure that things stay exactly the same so we can farm the same amount, if not more money from the same amount of people. We don't want anyone to drop off because they don't like kids.
May gives them a speech about how much of a responsibility it is to raise a child. Responsibility? Spider-Man? The Clone Saga may have been a controversial, convoluted mess, but in
Yeah,
the
I don't
midst
like
all
the sound of it,
chaos,
to
we
be
got
honest.
Amazing Spider-Man 400, which is just an absolutely beautiful issue and marked one of the biggest changes in Peter Parker's life. Aunt May's been on the cusp of death for the past 30 years, and having got another illness, it's clear she's not going to last much longer. She's advised to stay in bed and rest, but May wants to make the most of the time she has left with Peter, and they visit the top of the Empire State Building.
And she says, push me off, Peter. It'd be a really fun way to go. It'd be so much adrenaline.
Peter's surprise, May reveals that she's known he was Spider-Man for a very long time, and says that Uncle Ben would have been proud of him. Now weaker than ever, Peter takes May home.
At least people understand how bad of a secret identity Peter actually was. Because it would be impossible to keep that kind of thing secret. Eventually you're going to get found out. So it makes complete sense that they would find out eventually. Unlike Clark Kent being Superman, who puts in a pair of glasses and everyone's like, yeah, no idea. Not sure. Really? That's a tough one. Yeah, nah, you think he's Superman? No, he's wearing glasses. So he can't be. He's got 4 eyes. It's not him.
To rest. When Peter tries to call the doctor, May refuses. She knows that she's way past her time, but she just held on that little bit longer so she could say her goodbye to Peter. While she knows he won't take it well,
Let me
she
die.
reassures him that she's had a good, long life, and that she couldn't be prouder of the kind, decent soul that Peter has always been. MJ and Aunt Anna arrive to find a devastated Peter grieving over May's body, and they break down into tears together. Aunt May is buried next to Uncle Ben, and Peter accepts yet another inevitability of life.
Man, it must be sad that after all these years, Aunt May finally died. Considering this comic has been going for what, like 20, 30 years at this point? and she finally dies. That's a big thing to have happen. That's like a Simpsons dying.
The 90s marked the last real progression in Peter's
Like
stages
Grandpa
of
Simpson
life.
actually
He'd gone
died.
from an angsty teenager who lived in his Aunt May's house and had no one to confide in, to a mature, married man who'd lost more than he deserved, but had loved ones to support him and be honest with. This was, of course, ruined by a
Oh no. Are they gonna clone her? Don't clone her. Please don't clone Aunt May.
decisions made by Marvel in the dying breath of the 90s. New writers step in. Aunt May is back. Turns out she didn't actually die and blames
What?
her death on rap music?
What? What? I'm gonna read this. Hold on. Get used to all that's happened. To be involved in the schemes of Spider-Man, the awful Green Goblin. Why would anyone want to make people believe I was dead? Just goes to show what the world has come to. It's all that awful rap music is what I think. What the? Why did they do this?
Turns out she didn't actually die and blames her death on rap music? The fuck? Also, she doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man because that wasn't her. That was some actress clone thing that the Green Goblin made. MJ goes on a plane and gets blown up, but it turns out she actually wasn't on the plane and she got kidnapped. Peter's like, okay, I don't care, and starts kissing this teenager. Okay,
What?
I'm doing this run a disservice by explaining it like this, but it more or less cements a trend in Spider-Man comics of 1. Shaking things up for no other reason than just trying to get an increase in sales, which never actually ends up working, and 2. Refusing to let Peter grow, or actively regressing his character in an attempt to make him more relatable.
Just like a 15-year-old.
Peter saves MJ from the kidnapper, to which she uncharacteristically says that they need to go on a break, and the two of them separate. Not
What? Oh, that's sad. Listen, if they want to have some kind of like young version of Spider-Man, here's what they do. They get Miles. You get Miles. When was Miles originally introduced? This is the part where you get Miles because Spider-Man is married. He has a kid. He is raising people. He needs to raise maybe the next generation of Spidey boy. Miles comes along. Oh no, he's a Spidey boy. Okay, now Spider-Man trains Miles. They work together to fight crimes.
not the brightest of times, but here's when J. Michael Straczynski comes in. At the start of the 21st century, Straczynski took over Amazing Spider-Man and was like, alright, time to fix this mess. First things first, get Peter and MJ back together. But don't just have them instantly come back. Make the most of their time apart, exploring why it is they need each other, and so that when they do reunite, it's satisfying and it's earned.
And they made her hot too.
This is Spider-Man in his absolute prime. Having become a teacher at his old school, Peter is
Ooh,
able
cool.
to express his
Cool.
passion for science while helping the same vulnerable kids that he used to be. His sense
That's
of
cool.
responsibility is in full swing, going out of his way to help impoverished students and making a genuinely positive impact on the neighborhood, not just by punching a villain in the face, but by being compassionate and just putting in the effort.
Nice.
Spider, more man. His years of crime fighting are evident in the way that he tackles problems. He's still got that witty trickster's edge from Stan's original comics. He's still tremendously unlucky and suffers hard times, but there's always that glimmer of hope in there somewhere. Some people don't like what Straczynski did with the spider totem stuff, suggesting that Peter's powers came from a magical spider god. I for one can't get enough of it, but it's important to note that he's more just posing a question rather than giving a concrete explanation. One of the best things that he did was completely revamp the character of Aunt May. In the past, there were signs of her internal strength, which is something issue 400 understood, but a lot of the times it would be forgotten, and she'd be reduced to this weak old lady who would die from shock if
I'm dying again. Why does this keep happening, Peter?
she ever found out her nephew's secret. Straczynski understood that for someone to take in a child that wasn't originally hers, raise him despite all of the other tragedies in her life, watch as the love of her life is gunned down in front of her, watch as her nephew suffers loss after loss, and feel like she can't talk to him about it, try to find comfort in someone new only to have them ripped away from her, to suffer through the loneliness of old age, and even then to still keep going. A life like that would require absolute, unparalleled strength, and something like Peter being Spider-Man wouldn't change that. When May
Hold on, wait. I already found this out, didn't I? Wait a minute. Oh, you're Spider-Man? What?
discovers Peter's secret by accident, she's realistically in shock. But after having time
She
to
gonna have an heart
process
attack?
it, the two sit down and have a lengthy conversation about everything they've been through, all of the years they've lost to a lie, and how Aunt May just thought he was gay the whole time. This is also the
What?
first time that the great power, great
That's crazy. When you were going out at night and swinging, I thought that meant with cocks. I thought you were swinging cocks, not webs. Oh, how wrong I was. I thought you were just liked men.
great responsibility line was attributed to Uncle Ben and was no longer stuck in that little text box. A bunch of cool stuff happens, some
Whoa.
not so cool stuff happens, not his fault. Peter fights the Spider Queen.
What the what is
whose
this?
kiss gives him all sorts of new powers, such as organic webbing out of his wrist. Peter then dies
Oh, okay, so he didn't have organic webbing to begin with. Again, I think it would have been cool if he did.
and comes back to life. Don't worry about it. He also fights a villain called Paste Pot Pete, and upon hearing this ridiculous name, bursts out into so much laughter that he can no longer fight the villain. Things really
And
start to
loses.
change when, after a villain attacks their homes and leaves Peter, MJ, and Aunt May homeless, they're invited to live with the Avengers. They don't have to worry about money anymore. Peter becomes close to Iron Man and becomes his right-hand man. Aunt May's kind of got a thing going on.
Oh, that's just like what happens in the MCU. Okay, so basically everything that happens in the MCU has some kind of establishment within the comics already. It's actually cool to see that.
Jarvis, and then Speedball, old fucking Speedball, comes along and ruins everything. If you don't know,
Spell
I'm talking
Speedball.
about the massive Civil War event of 2006. It kicks off when a bunch of inexperienced superheroes attempt to stop a team of supervillains, but the whole thing goes sideways and ends up causing a devastating amount of civilian casualties. This leads the government to rethink how they should treat superheroes, and Peter is left with a choice. He can either give up his secret identity to the government and become their little errand boy, or he and his family can be hunted down and put in a
No, don't do it, Peter! Don't give in to the US government! They'll make you do horrific things, Peter! Don't do it!
hell prison. Iron Man is supportive of the government, and so, being his right-hand man, Peter goes along with him, an act that he would come to regret so very, very much. It's important to note that Peter doesn't just go,
Like, okay, the first thing we need to do with Spider-Man here is we need to send Spider-Man. There's villains in this Middle Eastern village. You need to beat all of the villains. Okay, which ones are the villains? I don't know. Just go and beat everyone in the Middle Eastern village up, Spider-Man. We need you to. They're probably in there somewhere.
along with Iron Man because, oh, it's Iron Man. After what happened with Speedball, he genuinely does believe that superheroes need to be trusted, and that this is one step in the right direction. However, out of all the people who are on Iron Man's team, all the heroes who are publicly in support of the government, Peter's the only one with a secret identity.
So is the American government the only government that has access to all these superheroes? Does the superheroiness just happen exclusively in America? I know it's not. I know that there are some on other ones, but is there like Chinese superheroes? Is there North Korean superheroes? Is there Russian superheroes? Is there Iranian superheroes? 'Cause that's interesting. Did they fight against each other?
So, to practice what they preach and get the public on their side, they ask Peter to reveal his identity to the world. If you think this is stupid, Peter does too. But after being convinced by his loved ones that this is the right thing to do, and that this would demonstrate
Why?
responsibility for his actions, Peter
Does it?
accepts. And so, in a moment he's been dreading ever since he was a teenager, Spider-Man reveals his identity on live television. Peter's whole life goes to
I don't imagine that's going to lead to anything good.
He's abused by
Yeah.
the public, his family is hunted down, Jameson tries to sue him for like $2 trillion. The only real people who stand up for him are Flash Thompson and Betty. But
He just doxed himself. That was stupid, wasn't
that's
it?
basically it. Still, Peter made a promise and continues to hunt down those who defy the government, even though it kills him inside.
Hunt down those who defy the government? This is a what? So he's just a little lackey of the US. What? It's time to do some American imperialism, brother.
Upon seeing the hell prison where they're keeping all of the unregistered superheroes, Peter reaches the final straw and turns against Iron Man. This is quite difficult,
Spider-Man turned into a cop!
as they still live in Avengers Tower, so after moving his family to a dodgy motel, Peter joins Captain America to fight for the side of freedom. From the shadows, Kingpin, along with many other of Spider-Man's villains, start a plot to kill Peter and his family. In the wake of the Civil War, Captain America is shot dead, and Peter barely makes it out alive. He returns to MJ
How do you
and
get
Aunt
shot
May
dead,
only
Captain?
for one of the Kingpin's men to open fire on them. Aunt May is hit instead of Peter, and Peter rushes her to the hospital.
Oh, no.
While May desperately clings to life, Peter brutally tracks down everyone responsible for the incident, which leads him right to the Kingpin. Breaking into the prison he's held in, Peter
Damn, he is massive. He is yoked. Good God.
humiliates the Kingpin, using his raw strength and no longer pulling his punches, setting an example of what happens when you come after Spider-Man's family. With Aunt May's condition getting worse and worse, Peter tries to get help from everyone he can think of. He goes to Iron Man, but Iron Man's like, no, die. And so he goes to Doctor Strange, who has literal magic that can raise people from the dead, but he's like, oh, I'm sorry man, I can't help you because... And so with no one else to turn to, Peter thinks, the devil! It's here we get one
Satan? Hey, listen. What is the worst person to work for, Satan or the US government?
More day. It's not exactly a groundbreaking opinion to say that this is the worst thing humanity has ever produced in the history of anything ever. A certain someone at Marvel didn't want Peter and MJ to be married, and so this story was created to retcon like 40 years of history and assassinate Peter's character, and even though I despise it with every fibre of my being, and it makes me want to devolve myself into a fish and go live in the sea, it's actually not that bad. Hear me out, but the actual presentation, how this story is told, is actually alright, and in some places, dare I say, actually kind of beautiful. The devil, aka Mephisto, shows up and gives Peter a deal. He will save Aunt May's life, he will make every—
He says, I want your marriage. I want to be the third. When you go to sleep, I want to be in the middle, Spider-Man. Between you and your wife.
Everyone forget Spider-Man's identity. He'll provide a fresh new start for all of the characters, on the condition that Peter and MJ are no longer married.
What a weird condition. What a fucking weird condition. I want you to divorce your wife, Spider-Man. Why? What could you possibly gain from Spider-Man divorcing Mary
What is
Jane?
possibly the worst divorce of all time, Peter and MJ's marriage will be erased from history. They will have no memory that anything has changed, and they will spend the rest of their days apart from one another, living with an unbearable emptiness in their souls which longs for a love they won't even know existed.
You'll have to play child support, Spider-Man. Wait, did they have a kid or did they not? Was there only the stillborn tragedy and then there was nothing else?
Instead of accepting what happened to Aunt May, who, as much as I love her character, was way past her expiration date, let's be real, not to mention that she would definitely be against sacrificing her beloved nephew's happiness, Peter says, okay, sure, he's reluctant to do it, but he still does it anyway, and so—
Does he consult Mary Jane on the issue first? Because the key to a good relationship is communication. And obviously, the two of you are partners in this, 50-50. Any big decisions have to be made together. If he does he consult Mary Jane? He does? Okay, well, as long as they're both in agreement, I guess.
Peter and MJ have 24 hours left to spend with each other. And this bit's actually kind of beautifully written. It's almost as if Straczynski is saying, hey, I don't want to do this, but there's nothing I can do. Even MJ's like, what are we doing? This is stupid. If you swap out Mephisto for Marvel editorial, you can really identify with the characters and the situation they're forced into. Having developed these characters over the course of his run, building up a genuinely realistic human relationship between them, Straczynski is able to make their last moments together very touching and impactful. And so a giant, infuriating, big red fuck you reset button is pressed, pretty much erasing decades of character development. That's like half an hour of this video.
Why? That's so dumb. Did they really just do this because they're like, oh, Spider-Man needs to be relatable, so he needs to be single. He needs to be alone. We go back. We can't have Spider-Man progress too much. We have to have him go back into nothing again.
Mary Jane is now the ex-girlfriend of Peter Parker for reasons unknown. Aunt May's alive and well, has no idea Peter is Spider-Man. Are you really gonna do this a third time, Marvel? Also, Harry's back. Way to negate that touching moment. But
why does his hair suck?
It's a comic book.
Like, I know I can't say anything about hair sucking, but man, his hair is weird. He looks like an armadillo.
I didn't like. It happened like 15 odd years ago, and hey, you gotta take the bad with the good. For every Kraven's Last Hunt, there's a one more day. For every beautifully written character piece, there's a bite in the fucking ass. At least Stan Lee liked it. And so begins a brand new day. An editorial attempt to wipe the slate clean and get Peter back to his roots. He's young, he's cool, he's got his life out of order, he sleeps around, he doesn't have a job, he's back at his Aunt May's house. God, this physically hurts. We get new villains such as Mr. Negative, a superpowered crime lord whose touch can either heal people or corrupt them. There's also Overdrive, Freak, Menace, Paper Doll, Screwball.
Whoa, is that just like an inflation fetish character? What was
Menace?
Wait, you just pregnant? What is going on here?
Paper Doll, Screwball, Barack Obama's in this.
What?
Flash has returned from the war in Iraq, having lost both of his legs.
Oh my god. Flash just came back from Iraq now? Didn't he go like 30 years ago? Jesus Christ. I thought he was supposed to be super speedy. It took him forever to get back from that.
At a homeless shelter, which is coincidentally run by Mr. Negative in disguise. Also, she's dating J. Jonah Jameson's dad. And speaking of J. Jonah Jameson, he's essentially fired after the Daily Bugle
most calm J. Jonah Jameson moment
is bought out by another company. And so, leaving his career in journalism behind, he decides to run for mayor. His first course of action.
Oh no, this is gonna be what Tucker Carlson does because he's not allowed to do news reporting anymore. Oh god, he's gonna run for something, isn't he? Oh no.
And upon being elected, is to publicly fund a death squad to capture Spider-Man. You
What?
could call it a Spider Slayers.
Well, how does the mayor have the power to do this?
And yeah, these first
What is going on? Spider-Man needs to stop kissing J. Jonah Jameson. Kisses J. Jonah Jameson more than he kisses Mary Jane, especially now considering the
few
divorce.
issues suffer from the whiplash of the new status quo. But once it sinks in and you get used to it,
Oh, he's not the Flash. Oh, sorry. Flash Thompson, not the Flash. I just remembered. Yeah, Flash is in DC, so he can't even be in these comics. Never mind. Of course, I was
there are
wrong.
some pretty good stories. Here's one that's really fucked up. Eddie Brock starts to have doubts about the Venom symbiote, which is bad for the symbiote because it needs a host to survive. And so it plants memories in Eddie's head, convincing him that he has terminal cancer and that Venom is the only thing keeping him alive. This psychological effect then leads to him actually getting cancer, to which the Venom symbiote is like, oh shit, and ditches him, leaving him to die.
What? Oh my god, that's so fucked. What?
Of cancer. The symbiote then goes on to bond with Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion, creating a all-new powerful Venom. With very little time left to live, Eddie wants to make peace before he dies and starts volunteering at the same shelter as Aunt May. During his time there, he comes in contact with Mr. Negative, whose touch completely heals Eddie of his cancer. Eddie is over the moon, just in time for the new Venom to show up and start trashing the place. Upon meeting its old host, the symbiote is like, alright Gargan, see ya, and starts trying to bond with Eddie again.
Why? Why does he like Eddie so much? Are they just like good mates?
When the Venom symbiote fuses with the special healing cells still left in Eddie's body, a new symbiote is created, transforming Eddie into the new Anti-Venom.
Whoa. Anti-Venom? Really? To be fair, I've never seen Anti-Venom before in my life. This is cool.
With the help of Spider-Man, Anti-Venom takes down Venom and goes off on a mission to save the world or something. It's here
Oh, he's a good guy? Oh, he's good.
Spider-Man issue 600, which marked a very special occasion, the wedding of Aunt May and J. Jameson Sr. But before Peter can attend, he has to deal with a brand new Dr. Octopus. You see, while Otto has his robot arms, he himself is just a regular guy. And after a lifetime of fighting Spider-Man, each punch to the face has resulted in a series of traumatic brain injuries, leading him to be diagnosed with less than a year to live. And just
Okay,
like
makes
Eddie, he
sense.
doesn't want his legacy to be that of villainy. He wants to leave the people of New York with something positive, and so he creates an army of Octobots and spreads them all about the city, psychically connecting them to every appliance, every mode of transport, thus creating a perfect system where everything runs on time without any issues.
Oh, I wonder what could possibly go wrong with this one.
Because this system is controlled by his subconscious, Otto's hatred for Spider-Man starts to corrupt the city, and all of its appliances start blowing up in an attempt to kill him. Spider-Man tracks Otto to his lair, where he finds him in a disturbing, zombified state, his new suit keeping him alive while adding 4 extra tentacles. Spider-Man manages to defeat him by plugging his own brain into the system and overriding Otto's so-called perfect city.
He puts the thing on, he's like, I love Spider-Man, Spider-Man is so cool, Spider-Man is really strong and awesome, Spider-Man is really, really cool, and the system is like, oh no, Spider-Man is really, really cool and awesome.
Otto escapes by the skin of his teeth, and Peter goes home to prepare for Aunt May's wedding. The ceremony is actually really sweet. Peter walks his aunt down the aisle, Mayor Jameson gives a very thoughtful, kind of insulting speech, and the marriage becomes official, making Peter and Jameson technically related.
So she marries J. Jonah Jameson's dad. They must both be like 100 years old by this point. It's never too late to get married, guys. Just know, your time is never completely up until it is.
Aunt May throws her bouquet, the tradition being that whoever catches it will be the next to get married.
I swear to God, if Peter catches that...
Which is then caught by none other than Mary Jane.
No! Why is Mary Jane there? Is there a reason for Mary Jane to be here? Is she just like really good mates with Aunt May or something? Like why did she even go to this wedding? They're not even supposed to be related to Peter anymore. Well, what are you there for?
Watson. But this happy, wholesome time doesn't last forever. We get an incredible...
Imagine if your aunt invites your ex-girlfriend to your wedding. Like, I'd be like, no, can we like, you can invite someone else. Is there anyone else you can invite? That's my ex.
Incredibly sad story about the Rhino, who has abandoned crime completely and has a steady job and loving wife. And it's really sweet hearing him talk about his wife, how he'll do anything for her, making it all the more devastating
I thought that was
when his
Kingpin,
wife
not
is
gonna lie.
killed right in front of him. The Rhino
no.
believes it to be a punishment for thinking he could have a normal life, and turns back to his life of crime. Kurt Connors starts losing his mind and transforms into the lizard once more, brutally killing a bunch of people in his lab.
Now that is the lizard that I know. That's a cool lizard.
In order to get rid of Kurt completely, the lizard tracks down Kurt's son Billy and prepares to kill him as well. Spider-Man is too late to rescue him, and while Kurt's consciousness begs the lizard to stop, he can do nothing but watch as he eats his own son. With this sacrifice, the lizard sheds into a new form, and Kurt Connors is truly dead.
Oh my god, that's horrific!
He escapes into the shadows while Spider-Man is left utterly defeated. And because Peter can't catch a break, Kraven the Hunter is brought back from the dead. He's resurrected by his wife and daughter, who stabbed Spider-Man through the heart in a ritualistic sacrifice. But Kraven is like, why the fuck did you bring me back? I was happy with my whole big sacrifice thing, and then you fucking Palpatined me. And to make things worse, they
somehow Kraven returned. Wow, Spider-Man is not having a good day right now.
The wrong Spider-Man. It was actually Kane, Spider-Man's edgy clone from the 90s. This mistake has corrupted the sacrifice and has actually put a curse on Kraven, making him immortal until he's killed by none other than Spider-Man's hand. So we have a man who wants to die, who can only be killed by a man who hates killing. Kraven begs Peter to kill him, but Peter refuses. He tells Kraven to treat his resurrection as a second chance and use it to do some good. And so Kraven does exactly that. He makes
dinosaurs
to start a new life, although he's still salty about his family resurrecting him.
Where the fuck did the dinosaurs come from?
And so he kills them. It's around this time.
He kills his own family? Well done, Spider-Man. That's your fault, mate. He wanted to be put out of his misery. You're like, no, with great resurrections comes great responsibility. Go hang out with the dinosaurs. He's like, okay, I'm gonna kill my wife though. No, don't kill my wife. No, I'm gonna kill my wife.
Peter starts dating forensic scientist and friend of Harry Osborn, Carly Cooper. Also, Marla puts in a good word for Peter at the tech company Horizon Labs, and Peter is hired as a member of their think tank. For once in his life, he's making a really good salary. There are no set hours, so him disappearing as Spider-Man won't be a problem. And most importantly, he can once again express his love for science, fulfilling the dreams he had all the way back when he was a teenager. Peter impresses his new boss by essentially just repackaging old Spider-Man inventions into new consumer-friendly devices.
He makes an Apple version of web shooters.
Meanwhile, the US government removes the symbiote from Mac Gargan and gives it to their best military veteran, Flash Thompson.
What? You just get someone on the blower like, hello, Flash. This is the president. Do you want an alien symbiote? Of course
Flash
they did,
becomes
man.
Agent Venom, giving him the power to walk again as he performs a series of missions for the US military, all while behind the scenes.
To heal him, let's be very clear. The US government does not give a fuck about veterans. They are not putting alien symbiotes into their veterans because they feel bad that he got his legs blown off. They don't give up. They do not care. They're doing it so they can have a super-powered agent that will go and, like, assassinate third world leaders or something.
Dr. Octopus is beginning his final master plan. Now I know what you're thinking. There hasn't been another Spider Slayer in a while. Oh shit. Alistair Smythe, son of Spencer Smythe, has returned, calling himself the Spider Slayer, and is seeking vengeance for his father's death. He does so by trying to kill anyone who Jameson's ever loved or has any connection with whatsoever, which, now that they're family, includes Peter. To help him with this goal, the Spider Slayer develops an army of cyborg minions and recruits Mac Gargan, who shares the desire for revenge against Jameson. Smythe gives him an upgraded version of the Scorpion suit and sends him to keep Spider-Man busy. The cyborg minions are sent after Aunt May, Jay, Marla, the Daily Bugle, all in separate places that Spider-Man couldn't possibly be in at once. And then he remembers, oh wait, I'm part of the Avengers, why don't I just call them for help? And so he calls them up, and the person—
Wait a minute, I have friends! Oh, that's right! I totally forgot! There's like buds that are like superpowered. In fact, they're stronger than I am. Thor's like a god. Wow, yeah, this would be super easy with them.
On the other end of the phone is Squirrel Girl, who completely ignores all of his requests, to which Spider-Man is like, well, I'm fucked. Surprisingly, Squirrel Girl pulls through in the end by
Squirrel Girl? That's a real thing? Did she get bitten by a radioactive squirrel?
Passing his message over to the real Avengers, who all race to save Spider-Man's loved ones. However, they soon discover that Smythe programmed the cyborgs with a form of spider sense. Thus, they're able to detect attacks before they happen and overpower the Avengers. If they want to stand—
That's why you simply attack faster and with more attacks. If you simply overwhelm them and go beyond their spider sense, then they cannot defend against it.
They got to get rid of that spider sense, and so Spider-Man races back to Horizon Labs to develop some way of disabling it. He manages to whip up a neurowave transmitter bioelectrical magical thing that will cover the whole city.
Oh yeah, well, that'll cover the whole city. Wow, yeah. Bro, mobile companies have struggles covering a whole city with just basic 4G connection. But Spider-Man's like, hang about everyone, I'll get this neurotransmitter that can cover the entirety of New York City. I'll just whip one up. Also, it has a touchscreen, and I programmed in a user interface too, because I was bored for a few seconds.
But the most important thing is that Spider-Man has to be away from the device once it activates, or it'll fry his spider sense too. Upon planting the device, he's confronted by the Scorpion, who destroys Spider-Man's controls, meaning he can no longer activate it remotely. And so Peter's like, fuck it, and activates it anyway, severely weakening the Spider Slayer army, but also permanently barbecuing his own spider sense, with his plan ruined and no one to back.
Well, that's not like the best thing that you can do. Spider sense is good because it alerts you to danger, you know what's going on around you, but you can still be a less effective version of Spider-Man. It's not like he got rid of his super strength or anything like that. He can still do web shooters, he can still crawl on walls, he's still got most of the Spidey capabilities.
Back him up. A desperate Smythe tries to kill Jameson himself. Just as he's about to tear a hole in Jameson's chest, Marla throws herself in front of him, sacrificing herself to save her husband. In her last moments, Marla urges Jameson not to waste any more of his life on hate. As she dies in his arms, Jameson refuses to blame Spider-Man for what happened, and puts full blame on himself. After Marla's funeral, Spider-Man makes a vow that from now on, no one will die under his watch.
That's a very, very bold statement to make, considering he's in New York City. The time it took him to speak that sentence, probably 3 murders had happened.
Meanwhile, Anti-Venom finds out that Martin Lee, the head of the homeless shelter, is in fact Mr. Negative, and so he goes to take him out, only to be interrupted by Spider-Man. Eddie tries to tell Peter that Martin Lee is Mr. Negative, but Peter doesn't believe him. Eddie's like, alright then, webs him to a guy's ass, and goes to confront Mr. Negative himself. When Mr. Negative's true identity is exposed, Peter's like, oh shit, fair enough. All while Dr. Octopus completes the finishing touches to his final plan.
Well, at least he's looking good nowadays. You know, there's some villains that go downhill and they deteriorate slightly, but it's good to see that Dr. Octopus is using the time that he gained with his biometrics and mechanical metrics to good use, and he's looking pretty good right now.
Secretly launching a number of satellites into orbit. And as if Peter joining Horizon Labs wasn't enough, he's about to fulfill another dream from those early issues, joining the Fantastic Four. In the past, he may have
No, you can't do that, there's 5.
Building, beat the shit out of them, and was like, gave me money, but he was doing it all wrong. Instead, all he had to do was be patient and just wait for the Human Torch to die, and then a spot would open up for him. In all seriousness, Johnny Storm sacrifices himself to save the entire universe. In a series of recordings he made in case of his death, he asks Peter to take his place on the Fantastic Four, to which Peter gladly accepts. However, it's not the Fantastic Four anymore. They've renamed it to the Future Foundation. Now a member of the Avengers and the Future Foundation, and having a full-time job at Horizon Labs, Peter's got barely any time to spend with his girlfriend Carly. Fortunately, Carly's job as a forensic scientist requires her to be on call 24/7, meaning she conveniently has to leave a lot of the time, allowing Peter to go off and be Spider-Man.
Okay, Spider-Man having 2 full-time jobs saving the world on a weekly basis is making me feel a little bit more self-conscious about the fact that I am not in a relationship. If he can handle a relationship like this, then, you know, what am I doing?
And you know what? For the first time since his marriage was torn away from him, Peter's life seems to be on track. To replace his spider sense, he's taking lessons from Shang-Chi, who is teaching him Spider-Fu. He's also expanded his equipment, he's got voice command web shooters, a stealth suit, a bulletproof suit, his Future Foundation suit, and his relationship with Carly is going pretty well.
Oh my!
Until she gets stuck to the ceiling. Everyone in New York is now mysteriously woken up with spider powers. Just a heads up, this is about to get a little bit complicated. As part of a massive experiment, the Jackal has spent the last couple of months covering the city with his own little spider bedbugs, all of which carrying a spider virus. Also, he's resurrected Kane and turned him into a giant tarantula to
Jesus Christ!
as his right-hand man. Also, he's captured Captain America and turned him into another big tarantula to serve as his left-hand man.
Captain America is now Spidey Boy as well?
The city is quarantined.
Dude, Jackal's the most overpowered villain that I've never heard of before in my life. I have no idea who this guy is, but apparently he's just crazy overpowered.
And all of the bridges are blocked off to prevent this spider virus from spreading to the rest of the world.
Oh, good luck quarantine in New York City. How do you think that's gonna work out for you? Especially when everyone can web swing now? Yeah, there's no shot that you can quarantine. People couldn't stay inside when COVID was going around. You think people are gonna stay inside and not spread cool Spidey powers? There's no shot. People will be going to New York City so that they can get Spidey powers.
While the majority of citizens are decent people who only use their powers for good, there is a certain vocal minority who'd rather use them for chaos. And so the Jackal begins the next phase of his plan, to round up all of the gangs in New York, give them Spider-Man costumes, and so when the Avengers show up to try and fight them, they won't be able to recognize the real Spider-Man, and they'll beat him up as well.
What? That is the dumbest plan ever. All Spider-Man needs to do is put on a different costume or have a tracker, a GPS tracker. If he can make a neuropolymer Spidey sense deletion device that covers an entire city in 15 seconds, he can make a little tracker that says, okay, like this is the real me. You can beat up the other ones. What a what a stupid thing.
This guy just exists to fuck with Spider-Man, and it's genius. Peter gets tired of being beaten up.
It is
by
funny
his team.
though. Like, that is such funny hater energy. I gave all the criminals Spidey outfits so that the Avengers will beat you up as well as them. That's just really funny.
And ditches his costume. Pretending to be yet another person who woke up with spider powers, Peter rallies the good citizens of New York to make a stand and fight all of the gang members. It now seems that every person in Peter's life, even Jameson, has spider powers. Every person except Mary Jane. And Aunt May, but she's out of town. Carly gets a little suspicious and thinks that Peter is a little too good with his spider powers. The Jackal sends Captain America to break through the blockades and let the virus spread. In response, the government deploys Flash to capture him, and his mission is a success. Flash then uses the Venom symbiote to disguise himself as Captain America's tarantula form, and returns back to the Jackal undercover.
I didn't know that was the thing that Venom could do. He just changes himself into a tarantula thing?
Everything's going according to plan until suddenly everyone in New York mutates, turning into these massive spiders. It's here we learn that the Jackal isn't actually the mastermind behind this whole thing. No, that title belongs to the Spider Queen, who used the Jackal's skills to develop a virus, connect it to the spider totem shit that Straczynski was on about, in order to create her a massive spider army. However, her plan is interrupted by
They know spiders can't use guns, right? So it would be quite easy to take out a massive spider army. You'd simply use airstrikes and AR-15s. And that's how you'd win.
Anti-Venom, who's going about using his powers to cure the giant spiders. So, the Queen sends Captain America, who is actually just Flash in disguise, to go and kill Anti-Venom. Flash, of course, snakes her, and takes Anti-Venom to Horizon Labs, where they can use Anti-Venom's healing qualities to develop a cure for the spider virus. The Queen's like,
good.
Shit, that's not good, and sends Kane to sabotage the cure. Spider-Man then tries to protect Anti-Venom, but he's completely overpowered by Kane and laid to waste. Just then, Horizon Labs, along with the Future Foundation, creates a device that returns Spider-Man's spider sense. Spider-Man's now got spider sense and spider foo, throws Kane into the Anti-Venom juice, and turns him back into a human. The Queen finds out what happened, gets really angry, fucking kills the Jackal, he was just sitting there, man, and turns into a giant spider monster.
Oh man, that's kind of sick though. And you know, like she's hot normally, so you know there's like a ton of Rule 34 for that.
Flash and a now cured Captain America confront the giant Spider Queen, but it's no use, and she starts causing devastation all across the city, surrounded by her massive army of New York spider people. Horizon Labs now has
Yeah, that is a pretty bad situation. Like, you obviously don't want to kill all the spiders since you can cure them. They are just normal people, so you're like, well, how much collateral damage do we really want in New York City?
a cure, but they just need a way to distribute it. And so Peter's like, hold up, remember that time when Dr. Octopus connected to everything in the city with his little Octobots? Why don't we just do that, but with the cure? And so Peter connects his brain to Otto's system. The Queen sends her army after him, but they're held back by Mary Jane Watson, who
I thought Mary Jane didn't have the Spidey powers.
spider powers were merely delayed due to years of her and Peter doing stuff.
What? Spider ex-girlfriend swinging to the rescue. Figure I owe you a few, tiger. What is going on? So what, she just didn't have the spider powers because cum? What?
That's as close as I can describe it without risking monetization.
Peter, what in the world do you think you're doing? Whoa! Okay, nothing yet, as it, like, spurts out. Jesus Christ!
Peter cures New York using the Octobots. MJ says that she loves him, but he doesn't hear her, so fuck you. Kane
What was
comes
that?
in clutch at the last minute, now dressed in Peter's stealth suit, just fucking launches himself into her mouth, which blows her up into a million pieces and scatters her brains all across the city. The day is saved, everyone is returned to normal, and Carly breaks up with Peter because she's figured out that he's Spider-Man. But hey, don't worry about it.
Fair enough.
Spider Island, the end. And
What?
with these final few stories, Peter's journey as Spider-Man is slowly but surely coming to a close.
That's
Dr.
insane.
Octopus activates his final plan, an array of satellites covering the globe which accelerates the effect of global warming. As billions of people burn...
Why? All you have to do is wait a couple years. Like, we've accelerated it enough. We don't need to accelerate it even more. That's like turning it from 50 times speed to like 51 times speed.
Otto turns it off and is like, just kidding, that's what's gonna happen to the Earth if we don't do something about it. And so his
What?
final gift to the world...
So, Dr. Octavius becomes an insane version of Greta Thunberg, who's like, guys, listen, global warming bad, by the way.
is to actually reverse global warming. Maybe just lead with that, but okay. Most world leaders are on board with it, and they
Is it
agree
Stephen
to
Hawking?
help produce the
Is that Stephen Hawking and Obama and Angela Merkel?
last of Otto's required satellites. It seems like Spider-Man is the only person on Earth who has his doubts, and so he calls the Avengers into action, showing off his all-new Sinister Six-proof armor. He leads the
Okay.
charge against Otto and his fellow villains, but Otto's been preparing for them, and uses a series of gadgets and gizmos to take them down. His plan goes off without a hitch. I mean, Elektra was shot into space, but apart from that, leaving Spider-Man and Black Widow as the last remaining Avengers.
Black
Okay, so
Widow?
there's no one to help them.
How the fuck did Black Widow survive if Captain America and Thor and Iron Man all got taken out?
All of the other superhero teams are conveniently off-world. Black Widow's kinda useless, no offense. Once again, he's fucked. That is, until they're both rescued at the last minute by Spider-Man's old mercenary pal, Silver Sable. They escape
Oh.
on Sable's invisible jet
Why?
and start hatching a plan to take down Otto. Otto still needs these last few satellites, so if they can break into those factories and stop production, then he can't complete his plan, right? One such factory is in North Africa, and so they fly the invisible jet there in the hopes of sabotaging it. Unfortunately, they are ambushed by the Sandman, who's now made up of all the sand in the entire Sahara Desert.
How did he even get there? Did he just hop on a plane? He's like, to the Sahara Desert, please. And then he just becomes one with the entire desert. That is pretty insane. That's like the June one from June. The June one from June. Yeah, good one, Dino.
With the help of Horizon Labs, Spider-Man and his crew are able to detect Sandman's brain, the one singular sand particle which contains his consciousness, and they manage to take him down. Peter and the crew then continue
By
to
shooting web at
sabotage
it?
factories all across the globe, running into several members of the Sinister Six. But it's no use, as Otto keeps launching satellites faster than they can shut them down, and now the only way to stop him is to confront him directly. Because Mysterio is a backstabbing bitch, they locate Otto's secret underwater base, with
That's so, dude, Mysterio is such a funny character. I've never seen him actually do anything apart from just trolling.
Spider-Man and Sable being sent to break in. Upon learning of this, Otto floods the lower levels of his base. During their break-in, Spider-Man and Sable cross paths with the Rhino, which shouldn't be a problem. There are two of them, one of him. All they gotta do is go around him. But Rhino's like, not so easy, you wall-crawling, web-spinning fuck, and prepares to join the ranks of the coldest Spider-Man villain moments of all time. He grabs Sable with his massive Rhino hand and promises that he will not move. As the water rises and the air leaves his lungs, he will not move. He will only loosen his grip when both he and Sable are dead, and he can finally join his dead wife. And so
Oh my god. Damn, that's pretty horrific. I was gonna say, I'm skeptical on why the Rhino is even here in the first place. Like, what is he doing? Is he just like strong? He's like a strong guy, right? But he's massive as well.
Peter is given another choice. He can either go and stop Octavius, potentially saving billions of lives, or he can fulfill his vow of letting no one die and save Sable. The answer is kind of obvious, and so Peter reluctantly leaves Sable to drown. In a climactic confrontation,
Oh my god, they just leave? Wow. Is there nothing he can do? I guess Spider-Man's not that strong after all. I thought he could squat an entire lab, but not strong enough to get the grip off the Rhino.
with his greatest enemy, Otto admits that the whole environmentalist saving the world spiel was a lie, and that he actually intends to wipe out the human race. Not every single person though. He'll leave
Why?
just less than 1% of the population alive, so they will preserve his legacy as the greatest supervillain of all time. Unfortunately for Otto, he's stuck in a stalemate. With all of his arms being used to hold Spider-Man, he can't reach the control panel and activate his plan. If he tries to use one of his arms to reach said control panel, Spider-Man will get free and stop him from activating the satellites. And so, in a last-ditch effort to succeed, Otto completely abandons his life support and drags his decaying husk of a body towards the controls. With billions of lives depending on him, Peter once again uses his sheer indomitable will to defy his situation,
This is the equivalent of going Super Saiyan, by the way. When a superhero needs a rage buff to be able to defeat the villain in the climax of the situation, it's just going Super Saiyan. That's what it is.
The impossible strength needed to free himself from Otto's arms. With the controls destroyed and his legacy ruined, Otto accepts his defeat, and if the water doesn't take him out, he'll be dead in a couple minutes anyway. But despite all that Otto—
And then Spider-Man said, fuck you! I don't care if you're disabled, your quality of life is nothing, you want to die, I'm putting you back in that life support system. Even though you tried to genocide all of humanity and are literally the worst person that has ever existed, I'm gonna make you live, damn it, so you can do it again.
has done, despite the fact that Sable's already dead, Peter still clings to his promise of no one dying. Otto is taken to the big supervillain prison known as the Raft, and hooked up to life support, only to be remembered as that one guy who didn't solve climate change. Upon his return, MJ throws Peter a massive party to say thank you for saving the world. Oh, are they gonna get back together? No. Just as Peter's about to take a break, suddenly the grave of Billy Connors is robbed, sparking a rumour that a certain villain is back. Morbius. Yes, it turns out that Morbius has dug up this child's grave in a supposed attempt to cure the lizard. Morbius and Spider-Man take to the sewers and use the combination—
Morbius is like, no, guys, I have a really good idea on how we're gonna take care of the lizards. What we're gonna do is, I'm gonna dig up the corpse of the body, which there can't be much of the body left. It must have been decomposing for a while. Also, it was eaten by a lizard, so like, there's what, a leg? There's what, a foot left? I need the foot, so I'm gonna take it. No, guys, it's a really good idea. I promise, it's a really good idea.
Of his son's DNA and Morbius's blood to transform him back into Kurt Connors. It's an apparent success, and they celebrate Kurt's return, completely oblivious that Kurt's consciousness is still well and truly dead, and only the lizard remains.
Wait, so it's just the lizard in a human body now? Wow, good job. Well done, guys. It was really worth defacing the rotting corpse of a child.
Lizard then spends the next while pretending to be Kurt, faking grief over the loss of his son. His ultimate goal being to blend in until he can return himself back to his righteous, lizardish form. However, during his time spent with the people of Horizon, he grows attached to being a human and all the joys of life, such as video games and Carly Rae Jepsen.
What? Have you heard this new song? She says she's gonna call me maybe. I hope she calls me. I miss having a tail.
It was 2012. Even when he's fully developed the formula to change him back, the lizard hesitates, genuinely considering giving up and living
then he does
the
it
wonders
anyway.
Of human life. But when Spider-Man discovers his plan, he's forced to inject himself and mutates into his final form.
He's not forced. He didn't have to do it.
To gobble a bunch of civilians when he's suddenly interrupted by visions of his son, his wife, and his old self. These illusions distract him enough for Spider-Man to inject him with yet another cure and defeat him.
It doesn't look like he's gotten injected there. It looks like he's gotten a sword through the head. How big was the syringe? 3 feet?
It's a lukewarm victory at best. While the cure significantly weakened the lizard, it failed to turn him back, and the hope of Connors ever returning is lost. At the very least, no one got hurt.
At least I can eat this rat now.
And the lizard is dropped off at the raft. That's where Dr. Octopus is. If there's one thing I like about this era of Spider-Man, it's that it always felt like it was building up to something. There'd always be forces at play behind the scenes, or elements that would be introduced only to pay off like 40 issues later. And all of these things eventually led to the series' grand finale, Amazing Spider-Man issue 700.
Oh my god, it's ending?
Octavius to take his last.
Dude, please let him die. Jesus Christ, what a horrible quality of life he must have. He tried to genocide all of humanity. Come on, he's like super Hitler. Come on, just let him die.
Breath. But before he does, he has a final master plan. While Spider-Man may have saved the world a bunch of times, he kind of fucked up in a big way. To stop the Autobots, he plugged his brain into Otto's system. To cure Spider Island, he plugged his brain into Otto's system. Even when designing his spider armor, he integrated Otto's system into the helmet. This whole time, he's been giving Otto access to his mind. Using his psychic connection, Otto's been controlling a single Autobot, slowly crawling from the ocean floor all the way back to New York. It finds Spider-Man during a
must
battle,
take a while.
and, using all of the brain data Otto's been collecting, completely rewrites Peter's brainwaves with his own, effectively swapping their brains. And so while Peter is now stuck in a decrepit, dying body, Otto Octavius is now free to do whatever he wants as Spider-Man. His final way of cheating death and getting revenge against his greatest enemy. As he coughs up blood and his organs start to fail, Peter prays to God and asks what he possibly could have done to deserve this.
I told you, man, just kill him! Dr. Ock became Spider-Man?
Begging not to die in a place like this. With not much to do, he speaks to the lizard in the next cell along, who reveals that the cure worked, and that he's now 100% Kurt Connors on the inside again.
He's lying.
Peter urges him to tell someone, but Kurt would prefer to stay trapped in his cell, as punishment for what happened to his son. He only told Peter because he's got hours to live and his secret will die with him. Okay, but he's Spider-Man. He's not just going to give up and die. So what the hell is he going to do?
Yeah, what's he going to do?
If Otto has access to all of Peter's memories, then it works the other way around. Peter searches through all of Otto's knowledge and experiences.
He hits him with the Uno reverse card. He hits him with the U-turn and does it back to
His
him.
Contingency plans, secret bases, certain memories of Otto and Aunt May on their wedding day that makes you want to bleach out your eyes. Eventually, Peter makes the same psychic connection with the rogue Octobot, and uses it to call his fellow supervillains for help. His message is received, and he's then broken out of the raft by Scorpion, Hydro Man, and the infamous Paste Pot Pete. Meanwhile, what is Otto up to in Spider-Man's body?
Saving the day, hopefully.
Well, he's arranged a date with Mary Jane, but it's very clear that he wants more than that. I can't tell if it's meant to be intentionally fun.
This is so creepy. Why does he want to fuck Mary Jane?
But
I mean, okay, well, I know why he would want to do that, but that being the first thing that he does, he's like, finally, I have a body that I can use again. I'm defeating my greatest enemy. Finally, I can do whatever I want. I'm gonna text his ex.
As she's getting closer and unbuttoning his shirt, he's saying things like, "Excellent! Another victory for the Master Planner!" Finally, Peter and MJ get back together, and it's Dr. fucking Numbnuts Octavius in his body. If you think about what's actually going on here, it's really fucked. But thankfully, they are interrupted by a news alert. Realizing that Peter will be coming to get his body back, Otto does the incredibly smart move of booking a round-trip flight to Belgium, thus ensuring that Peter will never be able to reach him, and by the time the plane lands, Peter will be dead. Meanwhile, Peter's life is in the hands of Paste Pot Pete.
What? This is so doofy.
As the villains try to reattach his metal arms to his body. In doing so, they accidentally kill him, and Peter is transported to the afterlife. It's there that he meets his dead parents, George Stacy, Gwen, Tim Harrison, real ones no, and finally, Uncle Ben. Ben delivers a powerful speech about how proud of him he is.
And then he has indomitable will because he's Spidey Boy, and then comes back and gets his body back.
How Peter's built such an amazing life which he can't let Otto destroy, and encourages him to get back up one last time and fight. Back in the real world, Peter wakes up, ready to get his body back. But none of that matters, because Otto is about to leave for Belgium. And so the saving grace, the hero who saves the day, is not Spider-Man, it's not Paste Pot Pete, it's in fact J. Jonah Jameson. While being interviewed about the breakout, Jameson calls Otto a buffoon, a loser, a complete imbecile who's never actually accomplished a single one of his evil plans, and it is that one speech that makes Otto reconsider the flight and face Peter himself.
Dude, he's so... Okay, for a super genius, he is so fucking dumb. It's like, what? He's taunting me? Ah, well, I better fall for it!
The police precinct where all of Otto's old equipment is being stored. He steals one of Otto's mind-swapping Octobots and is about to make a merry getaway when he's confronted by Carly Cooper. Peter tries to explain that it's actually him and that he's stuck in Otto's body, to which she's like, "No, that's dumb," and shoots him point blank.
Fair enough.
Her bullet ricochets off of Peter's arms and hits her instead. After tying up Carly's wound and praying that she'll live, Peter and the villains go back to their secret base. Returning from the airport, Otto has rounded up all of Peter's loved ones in Avengers Tower, just in case the evil Dr. Octopus comes after them for their connections to Spider-Man. We've got Mary Jane, Aunt May, Jay, Jameson, the Daily Bugle, the guys at Horizon Labs. Otto also snitches to the police of the whereabouts of Dr. Octopus's secret base, and an army of publicly funded Spider Slayers are deployed to take Peter out.
Why do they have robots like this? Come on, man. There's like homeless people on the streets and like, it's okay, we need the Spider Slayer robots.
Peter, Scorpion and Hydro Man escape, leaving poor old Pasty Pete behind. And if this scene was a kick in the balls, it gets even worse. When they're alone, MG confesses to who she thinks is Peter, that she's always loved him, no matter what happened between them or whatever fucking devil deal they've gone through, to which Otto responds by making out with her. Using his secret Avengers passcode, Peter enters Avengers Tower. If he can show someone like Iron Man the Octobot, then they'll understand what's going on and be able to help Peter get his brain back. Unfortunately, Otto has already thought of this, and has activated his massive Octobots all across the globe, leaving the Avengers occupied and no one at home to help. Not even Squirrel Girl. It is
no, not Squirrel Girl, but she's so strong.
Let slip that J. Jonah Jameson is in the building, piquing the interest of Scorpion and Hydro Man, who ditch Peter for a chance at revenge. Using his watery powers, Hydro Man discovers Jameson and his loved ones, only to be sucked up and contained by Horizon Labs and their power of science.
Oh my god, Hydro Man is such a walking L. Imagine being sucked up by a Hoover. Imagine being beaten by a vacuum cleaner.
Scorpion breaks into the safe room and they're like, well, science can't save us now. And they all prepare to die. But Jameson stands up to the Scorpion, claiming full responsibility for what he did to him in the past, and sacrificing himself so that the others can get to safety. Before the Scorpion can take action, however, Otto leaps in and uses that raw indomitable strength to take Scorpion's jaw clean off. With literal minutes to live, Peter grabs Otto and throws them both out the window. Now that Otto is significantly weakened, Peter activates the special Octobot and begins the mind transfer. But just like everything else, Otto has already thought of it and came prepared. Otto uses the same raw strength to take Peter out, and Peter lies beaten and broken.
Oh god, his eye is coming out and everything. Jesus Christ. There's no way he is still alive. He has died, his body is decomposing. This is the strongest body that has ever existed.
Seconds from death. Sure, his plan may have failed, but that Octobot managed to get into Otto's brain just the tiniest amount, leaving the tiniest psychic connection between the two. When Peter's whole life flashes before his eyes, he uses this connection to share the experience with Otto, and the two are flooded with all of Peter's memories and the values he's carried throughout his life. The kindness instilled into him by Aunt May and Uncle Ben. The importance of never giving up no matter how difficult things get. How tragic it is to lose someone and learning to move on despite it. The meaning of true love and how you don't truly appreciate how valuable it is.
Well, I mean, okay, to be fair, he's not supposed to remember any of this though, isn't he? It's supposed to get deleted, wasn't it? All of his memories were supposed to get deleted of that, so he's not really supposed to know the true love one.
Until it's cut short. Even saving Otto's life despite all that he did. Otto is overwhelmed. From his perspective, he is Peter Parker. These are all things that have happened to him, and the reminder of all of this completely shifts his philosophy. As the icing on the cake, Peter tells him that with great power, there must come great responsibility. Peter takes one last look at his loved ones, makes Otto promise to keep them safe,
and my god,
Peter Parker dies.
What the fuck?
This was of course very controversial at the time, and rightly so, killing off their main character on Stan Lee's birthday. But to me, this is
birthday on Stan Lee's birthday? You kill Spider-Man and replace it with shitty Octavius?
Perfect ending for Peter that represents who he is as a character. For most of his life, Peter was never rewarded for his heroics, nor was he able to really tell anyone what he was doing. He simply did it because it was the right thing to do, and that was more than enough. Peter does not get a happy ending. There's no reward at the end, and he dies as a villain, with no one to mourn him, no one to celebrate his life or acknowledge his sacrifice.
No one even knows he's dead.
The worst fate imaginable. But Peter doesn't care. Even though he's utterly defeated, even though he could easily give up and rest, he spends his last moments trying to find the good in someone, and he dies perfectly content with the knowledge that he's done the right thing and that his loved ones are safe. He's brave, selfless, and full of hope. And so as Peter Parker is laid to rest, Otto Octavius takes his place and promises to be Spider-Man, a better Spider-Man. Some can even say a superior Spider-Man.
What? Wait, that's the end of the comics? There's what? I'm flabbergasted. That's the wow. Holy crap. That happened in 2012? That's mad. The video will be updated in future, covering the post-Secret Wars era of Spider-Man and beyond. Just depends on the Wells finishes his run. That is absolutely crazy that that's how Peter Parker dies. Oh, there's gonna be more. Like, of course there's gonna be more, but like, what an ending. Imagine if you're a fan and you're like super into Spider-Man at this time and you're just ready for Spider-Man to get back into his body and like for Octavius to die and they just leave Otto in the body. I wanted to see the reactions from the fans. I wanted to see how mad they were. Oh my god, that would have been Game of Thrones on steroids. Jesus Christ, that's absolutely insane. I didn't realize that Spider-Man had such a crazy run. Like, all of this was all the same Spider-Man. I thought it was all of these different Spider-Man, and obviously it is all of these different Spider-Man, but there is a very concise storyline here that with its ups and its downs, and its good parts and its bad parts. But at the end of the day, it's all a pretty easy to understand timeline. I don't know if it's just this video is like really, really, really good, which obviously it's a really, really, really good video, and you should definitely subscribe to Alex if you like Spider-Man, because Alex makes videos about Spider-Man all the freaking time. Look at that. Look at all this. Look at all this. Look at all this Spider-Man. Look at all this. The Rise and Fall of Superior Spider-Man. Well, that's the Octavius one. But man, that was just a really good, concise story. It's very, very good. So, fantastic. And now I know everything about Spider-Man, and I wonder if they will do the same thing to Tom Holland. Could you imagine if they did the same thing to Tom Holland? Octavius just takes over his mind, and then Tom Holland dies, and now there's just Tom Holland, Octavius Spider-Man after that? Oh, people go mad. That would be insane. I hope that they'll do that. That'd be a really crazy way to end that off. That'd be crazy. But yeah, if you want me to react to something, leave it in the Discord server.